Hey there, and welcome back to the Mini Weekend. I'm your host, Jack. As always, get into it, Mini. Cheers, Sammy. Happy New Year to any new listeners, but also Happy New Year to you, Mr. Puppy. How are they hanging?
2025. Boy, are we off to a good start. Minnesota sports. What?
I'll say interesting start.
You know, we still have the Gophers started the year with a win for 2025. So
Yeah, and I gotta hand it off to you. I got a couple of things I want to say about this, but you guys are gonna hear it first. You were more right about the Gophers this year than I was. The Gophers didn't do as good as you thought, but they also did a lot better than I thought. So, in an effort of being transparent and who was closer, you were definitely closer.
Roll the boat. I mean,
that's up to you.
I said 10-2, but then I calmed myself down on that podcast and I said we'd probably get about 7 to 8 wins, and once you know, 8-5.
And honestly, I can't remember what I said. I think I said like 6 or 5 wins. So I think numbers-wise, they finished closer to what I thought. But hey, they played Michigan, and they played those really good teams a lot closer, like you thought, than I thought. I thought they were going to get blown out. I thought they were going to be wildly inconsistent. I think I remember saying, like, I need to pull them up here, but I want to say I was saying I could very well see them beating Michigan. And then I think after Michigan having Rutgers and losing to Rutgers the next week. Like, that's how easy.
Because the last time I was on the podcast, we were 4-3, 2-2 in the Big Ten. We were getting ready for Illinois. And I had said that was like the feeler as far as like what are we going to be expecting the rest of the way. They end up beating Illinois, but then they flatlined against Rutgers, which that killed them. And then they lost by 1 point against Penn State. But fortunately, they got the axe back in Wisconsin, and then they had a great defensive showing against Virginia Tech and finished 8-5. So that's respectable heading into the 2025 campaign. And looking at their future schedule, I mean, the only thing that pops out at me is at Ohio State and at Oregon. So I might that might be the year where we do go 10-2, but. They will have a new quarterback with Drake Lindsay. They did get somebody from the transfer portal from Georgia Tech, but I think PJ's riding high with Drake Lindsay, and then you get Darius Taylor back, and then you get a lot of your defensive guys back too, like Kerry Brown, Anthony Smith. I know there's a couple other guys. There was one guy that showed out.
At least 2 more years next year, and at least 1 more year.
Who? What's that?
Coy Parrish.
Oh yeah. They have Coy Wonder, so and he's probably gonna be a preseason All-American pick, and he's got money coming his way too as well because they signed up with some type of endorsement deal with like Dinkytown Sports or something. But
I think the U of M, they signed like deals like the school for NIL money. They signed like 5 or 6 deals. I think. So hopefully they're able to entice. We're not going to get into it, but hopefully the basketball fucking team can start using that to their advantage.
They're not going to.
Teams like they look dog shit, friend, dog shit.
Well, I feel like PJ Fleck is helping them with the recruiting too, because there's a few players that PJ's recruited that they're actually pretty good basketball players too as well. So I don't know, maybe he'll be doing Ben Johnson's work too as well. But not much to say on the Gopher basketball team other than they need money.
I think they need a new coach. I think again, I don't know who you get, but maybe there's
St. Thomas's head coach.
Nah, Johnny Tower's not going anywhere, baby. Johnny Tower's not going anywhere. And they're off to a hey, I can't remember if I was on with you or not, but Ben Johnson and that U of M basketball program better fucking watch their asses. Because if they don't get, I think I said this last year.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if it was with you or if it was with my.
No, it was with me.
If they don't watch their asses, St. Thomas, the University of St. Thomas, that was Division 3 years ago, is going to be a better program than that 3 years. I think last year I said 4 years, so in 3 years, if they don't get their shit together.
But But either way, so to recap the Gopher football season, I mean, they exceeded expectations for people. I wanted the 10 wins. We had that outside shot last time I was on the podcast of possibly getting into the college football playoff, but a couple games just didn't go their way. Pleasantly surprised with Max Brosmer. He definitely did play really well. Elijah Spencer, who I got on after the North Carolina game, he turned it on late in the season. We're going to miss Daniel Jackson. Hopefully he gets an NFL job because he is a heck of a wide receiver. But we got a lot of the boys back, and
what do we think of Lecky Brockington going into next year? Like right now, is he one of your top 3 receivers going into next year?
I don't think we have him back next season, do we?
I thought we did. I thought he was only a
I
sophomore.
thought he was.
He is.
Yeah, he was a senior.
He was okay. Never mind. But no, I mean, hey, and to your credit too, love you to death. And between the believe it or not, people that know me and maybe don't know Sam as much, between the two of us, you are more the Minnesota sports optimist than I am.
Christian Drivers, who I feel will be a good replacement for.
That's right.
For Elijah Spencer and Daniel Jackson. He kind of was in the shadows, but
because he was a freshman this year, right?
Yeah, he's like the redshirt freshman.
Oh yeah, that's right. But just really quickly, between the two of us, as much as people used to think when I started this back in 20 or 21, I've cooled off on that eternal optimism. But between the two of us, you are more the eternal optimist for Minnesota sports. But I have to say, I again will tip my hat to you. I would have to agree. Looking at the schedule and knowing what we know now about the team that we're bringing back, there's no reason they can't go 11-3 or 10-2. The only other team I would bring into that, the 3 games that kind of scare me, yeah, I would agree. Ohio State. It's tough to beat Ohio State at all, let alone in Ohio State. Same with Oregon, reigning number 1. But then Nebraska. People can say what they want about that team. Dylan Raiola put that program on the map this year.
Yeah, we're right. I shouldn't be doing that because I'm not a Nebraska guy. But
next year, he's going to get back. He's going to have a year more experience under his belt. He's going to have,
I'd be more worried about playing at Iowa.
What?
Playing at Iowa.
Yeah, exactly. So, I was going to say nothing's given in the FBS. You look at, Oregon laid an egg against Ohio State last.
Well, that was the third time they played each other too, as well.
But no doubt. But nothing is given. But you still have to beat these other teams. Not that they're going to be. I don't know if they're going to be inconsistent, but you have a very favorable three game non-conference schedule. So you got the Buffalo Bulls, Northwestern State Demons, Cal Bears, and then bye week Rutgers Scarlet Knights. So there's no reason to believe they can't be 4-0 going into that Ohio State game. But again, you still got to beat the Purdue's, you still got to beat Iowa, you still got to beat Michigan State, Northwestern.
Michigan State sucks.
Wisconsin, they had an unusually bad season this year.
Good. And we laid the hammer on them at the last game.
We did, and this was for me anyways, in my recent memory, this was the first year watching that game that regardless of the score, I was like, holy shit, we're flat out the better team.
Yeah, we're in control. There was no, not really a nerve-wracking moment. Maybe late in the third quarter when Wisconsin scored a touchdown, but we just played lockdown defense, and Wisconsin just didn't have a quarterback. I think their original starter had been out for the season.
And I think at the time, people were talking about the guy who was supposed to be their starter. Maybe was going to be transferring after he got healthy. I think after the year. I thought I remember them talking about that during the Paul Bunyan X game or earlier in the season. I thought I remember hearing something like that. I don't know.
But for the Gophers' expectations, so if Drake Lindsay has a comparable season as Max Brosmer did, then I don't see why they can't win 8 games again. So, and he's a 6'5" quarterback, so he is pretty tall. I'm optimistic, and I guess we'll just see how the spring game goes in April. I don't even think they have the spring game that's allowed to the public anymore. But
I think it's open to the public. Every team has like their red versus white game, the
yeah,
maroon gold
I,
game.
I know
Um,
COVID changed some things though too as well. But yeah, it'll be. I'm excited. Another guy I was thinking about too at wide receiver was that Daniil Hayes. He had played in the
okay.
Mayo Bowl, and he had a couple nice catches, and I believe he was also a freshman too as well. So he might step into the role of the receivers that we're replacing too. Also, again, they have pretty much everybody back on defense except for like Logan Redding and Cody Lindenberg. So
Okay.
Lindenberg will be tough, but we still have Maverick Baranowski, so I think he's going to take the role of Cody's spot, and then yeah, we'll see what our underclassmen do. But I'm excited. Like I'm already excited for the upcoming season. So
Yeah, and to your point, it'll be interesting to see what shakes out at the quarterback position. I didn't realize this until I just pulled it up. We had we have one, two, three, four this year. Four. I don't know who is going to be transferring, who's coming back, but if they all come back, we have four freshmen quarterbacks this year that would be coming back as sophomores. Your guy Drake Lindsay, you said from Fayetteville, Arkansas. A guy German of Finley. Yep, you did mention from Cali. But then Max Tikanaski from Stillwater, and then Dylan White from Buford, Georgia. So I think between those three guys, to your point, we've definitely seen the most of Drake Lindsay. I think it's without saying he's probably the favorite to start. But as we both know in sports, anything can happen. So I'll be interested to see what kind of steps some of these other guys may be taking and if there will be a battle for QB1 or not.
Zach Pyron, he's the quarterback that just transferred from Georgia Tech. So he's coming. So
So if he's
but
transferring here, I'm inclined to think at least one of those four
yeah,
guys
I mean, and that's a transfer
will
portal, but
replace that.
PJ got a really good recruiting class, and whoever comes, we're going to get some players our way too in the transfer portal. So that's something that Ben Johnson needs to take some fucking notes and you know figure out how to get these players to play here. But fortunately for PJ Fleck, he is acting as the head basketball coach and recruiter for the
Yeah,
University
he's
of
on.
Minnesota basketball because he's got like three or four athletes that not only play football but they kick ass at basketball. So PJ Fleck might be coaching both those teams. But yeah, don't want
I
to
know
touch a lot on the Gopher men's basketball team because it's a huge disappointment and I don't know,
there's
something needs to change over there.
they're sucking high tip right now. By the way, not to interrupt this great thing we got going, but Ryan Hartman, just over 4 minutes into the second period, made it a 3-2 game for the Wild over the Oilers.
There we
But
go.
yeah, I
That'll
mean,
be a big game. I mean, that'll be a big win. I mean, Edmonton went to the finals last year, so you
no
know,
doubt. And again, we talked about it before the podcast too. This Wild team is just playing exceptional despite having guys like Kirill, Jonas Brodin, Brock Faber, all out. So
Marco Rossi, Matthew Boldy. So yeah, I
and it's
mean,
incredible. I think people knew not to get too far down the rabbit hole here, but I think to your point, I think both a lot of people expected them to step up because they're great players. I don't think people expected them to step up in the way they have, and that's a big reason for why we
yeah.
are one of the best teams in the league right now.
Well, and I like how there's chemistry between Boldy, Marco Rossi, and Kirill. So yeah,
I was going to
but
say,
it's Minnesota sports, so can't get too high, can't get too low. We just gotta just ride the.
but and to your point, when those three guys are healthy, they are arguably, I mean, and especially this year, exactly the chemistry they have. So far, there's an argument to be made when they're all three healthy. That is arguably the best line
Health
in
as
all.
well.
So, no, health is key. But yeah, like you said, wrapping up, I think the Gophers, in my book, exceeded expectations playing wise. I think if you were to tell me before the season started that they would only lose to Michigan and Penn State by one of them by 3 points and one by 1 point, I'd say you're on fucking crack. So playing wise, they did exceptional and they, took a step up in the right direction record wise. Again, my biggest question for them is like you look at your schedule, you have all the opportunity next year to take this big leap,
Mm.
get a 12, maybe 11 seed in the college playoffs. I don't know what's going to happen. And go from there. But and I talked about this in the preseason. you just got to go out and do it. You can't talk about it. You can't, we should do this. No, you just got to go fucking do it.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can take moments.
Because keep in mind, like late in that Penn State game, everybody and their grandma knew that Penn State was going to fake that punt.
Except for our fucking defense, obviously.
So that was that decided the game. And then Penn State went all the way down the field and ran off the clock and blah, 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 blah. Happy for you, Penn State, but I am absolutely glad that you lost to Notre Dame in heartbreaking fashion because, I don't like you as a football program.
No. But, so happy for them. Before we get too much, we're going to stick on the topic, at least for a little bit here, positives. So there were two things that I actually wanted to bring up last week. I don't know if you had got a chance to listen to last week's episode yet. There were two things that I wanted to bring up to you guys as positives before dissecting the wild card game that were already decided before the wild card game. But like I said, staying on a positive note, we're going to do those right now. And those two things, the first one is Pro Bowlers, and Sammy is going to cover that. And how many guys did we send to the Pro Bowl again?
They were 6?
That sounds right. And I think there were only 2 or 3 teams that sent more than us, and there was like 1 or 2 teams that sent 6 as well.
Yeah. So I'm glad we're on the positivity train. So of course, we have Justin Jefferson as a Pro Bowler. Duh.
Exactly what I was saying.
Everybody loved this kid all season long up until the Detroit Lions game, and fans showed their true colors by absolutely hating on Sam Darnold. But he made it to the Pro Bowl. Good for him. And then Byron Murphy, he got in. I kind of wish it was Cam Bynum, but whatever. But
I think this was Murphy's first or second Pro Bowl?
I think it's the second. I think he did when he was with Arizona. I think he may have made it. And then you have the 2 big free agent signings of last summer with Jonathan Greenard and Van Ginkel. So they're both in. And then I just looked, Andrew DePaula, way to go, the long snapper. He got into he's in the Pro Bowl.
He's been solid.
But I'm not too fond of the Pro Bowl anymore. I think playing football is cool and all, but it is what it is. Playoff football is more important.
No, I never freaking watch it. I like bringing it up because I think regardless of how you feel about the Pro Bowl, it's a testament to what people have noticed. And the fact that, I'm going to look at it right now, the fact that people looked at this Vikings team and felt like 6 of our guys were deserving of spots is unbelievable, especially for a year that people tabbed us. I'm not kidding you. I don't know if you remember this. People were tabbing us to go fucking 5-12. People were thinking we're going to.
Yeah, I said 8-9. I think
there were people that legitimately thought not only were we going to be the 4th ranked team in the NFC North, but that they also thought the Bears were going to win it and go to the fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah. Speaking of who's on crack, I'm glad that didn't happen. But kind of the slap in the face, I think, is, I'm not a Kansas City loyalist whatsoever. I am a little surprised that Patrick Mahomes did not get voted into the Pro Bowl.
You're surprised he didn't?
I'm surprised he didn't. Every single year he's been.
I'm not one bit.
They lost, 2 games? If Patrick Mahomes is not the quarterback for Kansas City, there is no way that they're even winning the AFC West.
No, and to your point, I hear what you're saying. Like, he is very important to his team, no doubt. But by his standards, go look at the numbers. His numbers, like, I can't believe I'm actually going to say this, but statistically speaking, like, numbers don't lie. Like, statistically speaking, Sam Darnold had a better season than Patrick Mahomes. There's no 2 ways around it. I looked it up, and I'm looking at it right here. The Kansas City Chiefs, the once powerful Kansas City Chiefs, like, again, they're the defending champs until somebody beats them up.
Twice.
A very bad season. This was probably the worst season from a 15-2 team ever. So
I mean, they did have like 3 games that they won by miracle, so I
Well,
get
no, I
that.
was going to say exactly. I was going to say I actually went ahead and did the math. So I'm going to hit you with some numbers right here. So I went through all of their games, and I took their margin of victory or loss. Okay, and this powerful Kansas City Chiefs team that was blowing out teams left and right last year, blowing out teams left and right 2 years ago. Great, love that for them. This year, 17 16 games. If you do not include the Broncos blowout, and the only reason it was a blowout was because they were resting their starters, their average margin of victory was 5.3 points. Well, Jack, what happens if you add that blowout? 2.8. I mean, again, we talk about this all the time. You talk about it, I talk about it, other guests that have come on. Like, there's no such thing as a what do we call it? There's no such thing as like an honorary win or whatever, or so like whatever. But
No
at the
such
same,
thing as a life that's better than yours. J. Cole?
I
No?
can't remember what I was trying to say.
Well, you got to keep in mind, dude, the Kansas City Chiefs are going for their 3rd consecutive Super Bowl.
They are, but I'm just saying. Like, let's just highlight a couple of these for a second. They beat the Chargers, that a lot of people thought were going to be dog shit.
I thought the Chargers were going to beat the
I thought
Texans and
they beat them by 2
play the
points.
Chiefs.
They beat the Raiders, who has the fourth pick this upcoming season, by 2 points.
Well, they fumbled. They messed up on their field goal. They were lining up to kick a field goal, and they funked that up. And I think some other team that they were playing against, similar thing happened. So there's a lot of like divine things that are happening with the Kansas City Chiefs. So if they're going to be the first team in NFL history to win 3 Super Bowls, more power to them, because there's a lot of divine intervention that's been going on with that team this year. But I still think Patrick Mahomes is still a Pro Bowler. So that's just odd to me. And I don't like that. I mean, he's not my favorite dude. He's just Patrick Mahomes, whatever.
And I'm not going to say everything because I want to save some of this for the divisional round talks.
Bondalarooski.
And for the conference finals talks next week as well. But one of the things I am going to say without giving away too much, Kansas City Chiefs, for the better part of 16 weeks this year, got lucky. And guess what? At some point, that luck doesn't roll in your favor. Without giving too much away, that's all I'm going to say right now.
No, man. I wish the Vikings had some luck,
Hey, we're due, and we will
going on 40 years, Jack. I'm turning 40 this year, so I don't know.
But yeah, before we get into the second kind of positive stuff that I thought might be fun to look at, again, like you said, 6 players, only Philly and Detroit sent more. There was, I can't remember the team, only one other team sent 6. Congrats to Justin Jefferson on his 4th Pro Bowl, Andrew DiPaola on his 3rd, and Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Byron Murphy, and Sam Darnold all made their first appearance. 3 of those guys we just signed this last summer. So huge congrats to all those guys. Very well deserving. Regardless about how I feel of these, I'm not going to single anybody out. Regardless of how I feel
the last 2 weeks.
Regardless of how I feel about them, very well deserved. Statistically speaking, should have made it. Hats off to you guys. The second thing I meant to bring up last week that we didn't, that I think is kind of fun to look at, despite the season being over, weeks aren't decided yet, times aren't decided, nothing is decided, but what is decided already is our opponents for next year, Sam. So obviously everybody knows we host and go to Chicago, host and go to Detroit, and host and go to the Packers. But next year in 2025, our extra game will actually be an away game. But next year, I think next year is going to be a lot tougher than this year. And it is because next year, Sammy, we got to play the AFC North. What does that mean? That means the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be coming to town. You know what? Sorry, I'm just going to stop being an idiot.
Smoking Joe Burrow.
Home opponents next year: Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers, Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals, Philadelphia Eagles, Washington Commanders, Atlanta Falcons. away opponents: Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers, Cleveland Browns, Dallas Cowboys, New York Jets, Seattle Seahawks, Pittsburgh,
Giants.
LA Chargers.
Giants.
What?
You said Jets. It's the Giants.
Oh, sorry. I meant to say Giants. Yes, you are correct. My hot take, I'm going to ask you a question here in a second, but my hot take, I feel more comfortable in our away schedule than I do our home schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to play Philly and Washington at the Dome, but
at least
for the Vikings' favor, I mean, you got the home crowd, but
no doubt. I mean, you go to Cleveland. I mean, again, our away opponents: Chicago, Cleveland, Dallas, Giants, Seahawks, Pittsburgh. Like, there's no reason to think we can't win 7 of our 9 away games. I'm happy we get to host the Cincinnati Bengals, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Philadelphia Eagles, because I think it makes eye test right now, knowing who's coming back and who's not. They're going to be tough games, but at least being able to play them at home is going to keep it a little bit closer. But one game that I'm actually really looking forward to that I think I might try to get to, that Commanders game. But so sorry, I was rambling when I was going to say I was going to ask you a question. You're looking at this, you're taking this in for the first time. What's your initial reaction? What are your initial thoughts looking at?
why do they have to go again on the road against the Giants and on the road with the Seahawks? I know they're going off the division, like placement of the division, but so much wheeling and dealing goes on in the free agency. I mean, they use a computer to frickin' do these schedules. So it's just like, I'm getting kind of sick and tired of the AI stuff. They need masterminds to actually dissect and how to make a legit schedule, because that doesn't make sense to me. But it is what it is.
What doesn't make sense to you?
Well, why are the Vikings having to go again and play at New York at the Giants and then again against Seattle? That's just.
Well, it's a formula. Like it's not.
And then also Falcons at home. Like it's like they're doing the same shit.
No, I mean, it's a formula. You can go right now. The 2026 schedule, I can tell you right now, we're playing the AFC East. We're playing.
Yeah, that's always rotating. I know that always rotates. But when you have
when you're trying to fuck us, it's not
when you're playing the conference opponents and stuff. So, agree to disagree. I think there should be a little more thought into it, but I don't know. I'm just a sports talker. But hey, you want to go to Cleveland for the away game?
Cleveland's kind of a shithole, but
well, I mean, the balloon fiasco was about 35 years ago, so hopefully we're past that. But Cleveland's not so bad.
Cleveland, I think it's like a Murgerapolis, where it's just a shitty, dirty city. But
don't tell Jason Kelsey or Travis Kelsey that. Hopefully they're not watching.
But I mean, outside of our divisional opponents, that Cleveland Browns game geographically is probably the closest game to travel to. I mean, Chargers, Seattle, no. Pittsburgh, no.
Unless you want to go back to AT&T Stadium.
No, I don't want to
get blinded by the sun.
But no, I mean, I think, again, I'm looking forward to the season. I mean, one of the things we talked about before the podcast, too, very similar to last year, there's kind of the same narrative going into this upcoming season, that it's kind of like what's going to happen at the quarterback position. But outside of the quarterback position, I think a lot of people don't realize we're bringing back the brunt of our talent. Like O'Neal, I have some feelings about Hawkinson, but O'Neal, Hawkinson, Jefferson, Darrisaw, Josh Oliver, Jordan Addison, C.J. Ham, Ed Ingram, Jalen Naylor.
I'll tell you this: I don't see Aaron Jones coming back.
No, we don't have him under contract next year. Jonathan Greenard, Harrison Smith, Josh Metellus, Dallas Turner, like all those guys I just listed off are all under contract last year. So we have a lot of proven guys that are coming back this year. And again, another question for you: what is in your opinion, maybe let's do like the top 3. What, in your opinion, what are the top 3 priorities?
Like, what do they need?
And that the Vikings should do, whether it's cutting guys, adding guys. Like in your mind, what should their top 3 priorities?
I mean, everybody can hate me for all they want, but I understand Sam Darnold needs to get better with throwing the fucking football away when he's under pressure, but over the last two games really exposed what kills that team. That's the offensive line. I mean, the offensive guards were getting beat off the ball time and time and time and time again. Granted, Sam's got to make better decisions on throwing the football away or scrambling for yards, but the way the Rams were playing on Monday night, it was a polar opposite from what I've seen from the Vikings this season. You definitely need to get somebody to fill the gap on the line. Whether it's going through, I mean, they don't have many draft picks. I mean, they got a first round pick, and I think only 3 draft picks for the upcoming draft. But you definitely need to get an offensive guard. You could maybe get like another offensive tackle. I do like Ursery from the Gophers, but you really need to, I think, use some of that cap space for an offensive guard, like a premier one. Give them all the money in the world so that way you do have a good running game for next season. An offensive guard. You need to use some of that, the bulk of that money off of your interior line. The second would be a running back. So they have the 24th pick. I don't think you should trade that pick to go higher up. I honestly think you need to get rid of some of, like, 1 or 2 of your assets. For example, Jordan Addison, I think he's kind of at the ceiling of, what we're going to be seeing from him in his career. Now is a good time to trade him than ever. And if you can sneak up to get, a top 10, top 15 pick, Ashton Genty from Boise State, could that be a possibility? I don't know. But those will be 2 for sure. And then, maybe find somebody to replace Hawkinson. Because I think the defense is fine. I think you can
replace him or add to our tight end depth.
Well, you could add to the depth if you're going to keep Hawkinson for another year, but I think the amount of money he's making and with his torn ACL, I don't even think he was 100% when he came back.
Yeah. No,
So
I would say I probably agree with that last one the most with you because to your point exactly, I think since Hawkinson, obviously, thankful for everything he's done for us. He's been, a great tight end for us. But since signing that contract and post injury, he just hasn't been. He hasn't really been playing up to his. So I don't think. And next year, I have it up here. Next year, he's set to make what $1.8 million. I mean, so maybe there's a conversation to have with him to maybe. And I know some people have their own opinions about this, but maybe you go to him and say, "Hey, let's turn some of your money you want to be making these next 3 years into a signing bonus so that we can get some of that money off the books and we can spend."
There might be some dead cap money if you outright release him, but I guess
release him. I'm just saying, I think to your point, I think there's a conversation to be had with him where you sit him down and you say, "Hey, look, you don't look the same post injury. If we would have known this, we wouldn't have given you that contract that we gave you."
Hindsight's always 20/20. And then I guess the next, kind of a number 3 with an asterisk would be you're going to need to find somebody to replace Stephon Gilmore. I don't see him coming back next season either. He was all right. He wasn't great. He was a former defensive player of the year, but he didn't show that. And also he was a little bit hurt. But we'll see. But getting another corner, spend the money wisely and figure out how you can jump back into the draft too, because 3-4 draft picks aren't going to cut it. They're going to need to.
But I think to your point, I don't disagree. But I think to your point, I think part of the reason we brought Gilmore in, we need to replace Gilmore. I wouldn't bring him back just because of how old he is. And, you can see him out there. He's got good veteran leadership and he can still play. He's lost a step. So as good as he is, you kind of have to have him by virtue of him being older.
I think he was Defensive Player of the Year 5 years ago.
And wide receiver 3, because he's just going to get burnt by everybody's wide receiver 1 and 2. But I think the big reason we brought Gilmore in is because they were super high on Mekhi Blackman and Jay Ward. And both those guys looked amazing in training camp, and they got injured before the season. So I think if those guys didn't get injured,
Yeah.
I thought I remember them being pretty high and pretty confident in both those guys' ability.
Yeah, I mean, I hope Mackay bounces back. I mean, he had, like, since we drafted him, he's had two, like, last 2 seasons, he's been out for the season for majority of the year. But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. September is a long, long, long ways away right now. But it's going to be an interesting
234 days
offseason.
until our season starts.
What's that?
234. 234 days until our season starts. Who's counting?
This season hasn't even ended yet.
No, it hasn't, and I'm still counting down. I do have a little bit of bone to pick with one of yours. I don't disagree with trying to beefen up the interior offensive line because, again, I'm very much of the notion that the Dallas Cowboys disagree with this. But I'm of the notion that you don't need 5 really good offensive linemen. You need 7 to 8 solid offensive linemen that are irreplaceable because guess what? They're big humans. Injuries are inevitable. So you need to rotate a revolving door of 7 to 8 offensive linemen that are interchangeable. So I agree with that aspect of your take on our offensive line. We talked about this a little bit during this loss to the Rams. We lost that game and we lost to the Detroit Lions more so because of Sam Darnold than our offensive line. And I know I texted it to you, but I'm going to say it again so that everybody can hear it. Religiously throughout this season, before I even get into that, there is a notion in the NFL that you're at least a average or better offensive line if you can give your quarterback 3 comfortable seconds in the pocket, time and time and time again from week 1 to the wild card weekend. That offensive line not only gave him 3 seconds, they gave him 4 seconds, 5 seconds,
6 seconds. And it's like, dude, like Paul Allen said, just throw the ball away, man.
We're going to get into this in a little bit when we more so dissect the game. But, I mean, it was more on Sam, and it's Sam's fault
it's always Sam's fault. It's always Sam's fault.
But hear me out on this. Part of it is because he improved and he got better, and that's not a bad thing. But he showed us in 16 weeks that he can use his legs. He can make the throws, and he wasn't making those plays.
Once people started talking contract and started talking, end of the season shit and all that, I think it got into his head, and this is what happens when you jump the gun of being like, well, should we keep? No, you let the season ride. You don't talk about that stuff until after the season. Have after the season to talk about that. Otherwise, that's just going to be garbage in your head all the way through up until, they're out of the playoffs, But essentially, it was all that talk. I think that played a pretty big role as to what happened. Everybody was saying, he's going to have like a $50 million contract, blah, 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 blah. Season isn't even over yet. But all Minnesota fans just get hoity-toity and like, oh, Sam Darnold's the future. 2 weeks later, now they want to fucking throw him to the curb. Like, that happens every single year with Minnesota Vikings football and their fan base, and it's very frustrating. Sorry to sound off on that, but I think that's not fair to Sam Darnold. It is what it is. I mean, literally 3 weeks ago, we were talking about signing to an extension, maybe trading J.J. McCarthy. Like, there was so much hoopla. Of course, they're going to listen to it.
I think part of it, who are you saying shouldn't listen to that?
What's that?
Who are you saying shouldn't have listened to that?
I mean, they shouldn't, because I feel like that got into the locker room, and I want to say that it probably was ringing in their heads.
I would disagree. I don't think any of those guys think about that kind of stuff. And truthfully, it's all that kind of shit is just like, who's the NBA GOAT? Is it MJ? Is it LeBron? Is it Kobe? It's like people are always like, it's shop talk. It's something that's just always going to get talked about.
I get that, but if you're an NFL player and you're having a career year, and then all of a sudden you start talking, like people are starting to talk, hey man, you're going to sign like a 6-year contract because you're playing extremely well. And then 3 weeks later, it's like, it's gone.
But my brother and I were having a conversation. I want to say it was right after Thanksgiving or the beginning of December.
I mean, I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for sounding off like that, but that's essentially kind of how I feel. I mean, it's a really unfortunate because he had a hell of a season. And then those 2 games, of course, there have to be at the very end of the season. He's got to shit the bed, but it's just like you look at the grand scheme of things of the season. I thought, he was the best thing for Minnesota.
But I mean, I think if I'm being completely honest with you, I think there was a very unofficial but official thing within the Vikings organization that we're not
that they were moving on.
No, not at all. There was this notion that we're not thinking about it. We're not making a decision. We're not giving it time of day. The media can say what they want, but we are not talking about it until our season is over. And truthfully, I'm just going to come out and say it. I'll be completely honest with you. I said it to friends. I said it to family. I said it to listeners who reached out these last couple of days, co-workers. It's how Sam lost the game that is the most frustrating part. It's not the fact that he lost those games, because believe me, Sam, if we would have lost, let me pull this back up here.
Like, I don't think it was all on him. I mean, of course, the quarterback is always to blame year in and year out.
But hear me out. If we lost to the Lions and we came back and we lost 29-31, and maybe let's say the Rams, we come back and we fall short and we lose 27-24, 27-23, I would be the first person right here on this podcast to say, I'm not going to franchise tag him, but maybe we have that conversation of what's a fair price. We need to add some more pieces, but what's a fair price in extending him? The fact that he was overthrowing, underthrowing, not using his legs, like he seemed like a completely different quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And point,
I feel like the end of the season wore on him.
Remember, this is the perfect example, i.e., fucking Dak Prescott, i.e., 5 other quarterbacks that
don't need Dak Prescott. And if that's a topic of discussion in the offseason, I'm going
No, I'm not talking about Dak Prescott. I'm not talking about bringing anybody in specifically.
Kirk Cousins back.
What I'm talking about is the thing I'm talking about, though, is this is exactly why you don't talk extension in the middle of the season. You wait until after season. The reason I brought up Dak Prescott is because he's one of the 5 or 6 most recent quarterbacks to sign a contract extension in the middle of the season. And these last 2 games are the exact reason you did. And that's why I fucking love Kwesi and I love Kevin O'Connell. They will be here for it as long as they want to be here. And they don't organization.
You hope, but this rumor mill is getting a little weird.
The reason I say that, though, is because they were not afraid to do what they did. They didn't talk about it. They didn't entertain it. As far as they were concerned, it wasn't even a topic of discussion, a thought to have until they played their final game and the season was over. Now, what they should be doing is they should be shaking his hand, saying, "Hey, hats off, man.
You go find your contract elsewhere."
A great regular season for us. You failed to come up big in the 2 games that we needed you the most. We're not going to resign you. Best of luck somewhere else.
But at the same token, like, that was a fumble by Matthew Stafford, and that was a touchdown. Just that one little play could have changed the whole complexion of the game. But the Rams were ready to play, and their defense, 9 sacks. That's not all on Sam. Granted, he should have. Granted, there were a couple plays where he should have ran to gain yardage. But at the same token, you got to protect your quarterback, and I did not see that. I did not see anybody having Sam's back. That's unfortunate.
If you're an offensive lineman giving a quarterback 5
and
or 6...
what are they doing? But also, riddle me this. Like, there's 6 or 7 minutes left on the clock. Why are they running first quarter offense?
No, and see, that's why...
that's also a coaching deal, too, as well.
No, 100%. So we're kind of in this dissecting the game already. So if I'm being completely honest with you, 90 to 80% of that loss is on Sam Darnold. 5 to 10%. I put 5 to 10% on the offensive line and 5 to 10% on Kevin O'Connell. Again, I've said it a couple times before, but I'm just going to preface this with my reasoning behind that. Sam Darnold, pretty simple. He was missing passes that through 16 games, he was making those passes. 16 games, he was showing us like he's not a running quarterback, but he can extend plays. And you want to know how you open up the deep ball, Sam? You
Establishing the run.
and you get between 5 to 8 yards 4 or 5 times, and you make that defense play up more. You get those guys in man-to-man coverage. 9.5 times out of 10 in man coverage, Justin Jefferson is going to get a home run ball. Same thing with Jordan Addison. He did that time and time again against Seattle. He did it against the Colts. He did it against the Bears, the Titans. He did it against the fucking Jets, who had at the time one of the best defenses in the league. He did it against the Packers twice. He did it against Cardinals. Like, list goes on.
But even against the Packers, they built those big leads, and then their defense would no show and end up winning by only 2 points and
he
have a crazy comeback. So,
and he did it.
No, my name is Sam, so it's like I'm defending the Sam. Sorry, Sam, stick together.
So that is why I put the most onus on them. The reason I give a little bit to Kevin O'Connell is exactly what you said. After you score that touchdown with TJ Hawkinson, regardless of if you kick a field goal or regardless if you kick the pat, you go for 2, you get it, you don't get it, you're playing with urgency.
You're playing playoff football. What is it made? Yeah, I don't know. We were already cashing out. I mean, we were already cashing out.
That frustrated me. It sucked. It was what it was. The reason I give so little of this to our offensive line is I don't know if you don't agree with it. I don't know.
O'Neal got a concussion off of, I think, a personal foul penalty, too.
Yeah. But I don't know if there's numbers on this, but I'm willing to die on the hill of this, saying Sam Darnold was given plenty of time in the pocket. I said it yesterday to a coworker. All Sam needed to do was hike internal clock. 1, 2, 3. If by the time 3's the ball's not out of your hand, you're going to the left, you're going to the right to give yourself time, or you're running
or throw the ball away, and that's, I mean.
And he didn't do that, but guess what? He did that for 16 games. So the reason there's little onus on our offensive line for us is because if you were really watching that game, and if you're really a football fan and you're watching this podcast and you believe that, say what you want about that offensive line. That offensive line gave for every 10 plays, 8.5 easy. 8.5 of those plays, that offensive line gave him not only time to throw the ball, to move his feet, and he did not move his feet. He looked like fucking Kirk Cousins.
Deer in the headlights, unfortunately. I mean, that was his first time in the playoffs, and he got lemon booty. So, but
again,
year after year, Jack, year after year.
And my brother brought this up to me yesterday either. I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think it's fun to listen to some of them because I don't always think like that. So it's fun to entertain them and say, oh, ha, 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 ha. But how convenient is it that a franchise like the Vikings, who were, remember, 1 game, 4 quarters away from not only a 1 seed, but a first-round bye, how convenient that the Vikings, 14-win Vikings, have to play, of all the teams in the playoffs, the LA Rams. You know what the Rams and the city of Los Angeles dealt with in the days leading up to the game? An event that pushed this game to go to Arizona. And I got a bone to pick with every fucking analyst from ESPN and on KSTP for that game. And mind you, there were only a handful of bright moments for the Vikings in that game. Even those handful of moments, they weren't talking about the Vikings.
They were talking about the LA Fires.
They were talking about, wow, what a great catch. By the way, Sam, what about this for this Rams team? They're just really resilient. They're getting through this. Like, I'm not saying it's rigged. I'm not saying that. But my brother showed me this TikTok that I couldn't help but think to myself, like, and I told my brother, I said, you can go back and you can watch the tape on the last podcast. I believed we were the better team and we were going to win. But I also said I'd be lying if I didn't tell you guys I had a bad feeling in my gut, and I didn't necessarily want to bring it up before something happened. I'm not saying anything. It does seem a little.
Well,
So that's
I've reached out to some people who are in the LA area, and I'm glad they're staying safe.
yes, and
But
Hart, yes,
it's always
obviously
something with the Vikings. There's always something like they'll play a team where their city has been going through shit.
in 09.
2009, New Orleans. 5 years ago or 4 years ago was Katrina at that time. 2017, the Super Bowl was going to be in Minnesota, and that was a big deal. But yeah,
They didn't
Philadelphia
want us.
ruined that. And yeah, they didn't want us. But how come 2020, man? We had the George Floyd stuff. Why didn't anybody come together and kumbaya with us so we could ride off of the sunset with the Super Bowl also? But yeah, it's always
Right.
something with Minnesota sports. And when they were broadcasting all that fire stuff, like, yeah, absolutely devastating, horrible,
Absolutely
horrific.
devastating. Hart,
I
never
think
mind.
the funny thing about it was when they were doing the Fox pregame, they were like, "Oh, the Fox is donating $1 million to the fund," and I told my dad, "I'm like, wow, that's gonna pay for half a house." Like, $5 to $10 million homes. You think $1 million is gonna help with all that devastation over there? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Well, hey, did you hear all the commercials? Every little bit helps.
Every little bit. Well, imagine if we. Never mind. That's a different rabbit hole, and just go buy your meme coins and figure that out. But
But I think again, not trying to get too far into that, and using that as an
it is
excuse.
ironic, though. It is ironic.
It is ironic, but again, it's not an excuse. I think there's something to be said, and I think, tell me if you agree with this. I think I personally speak for a lot of Minnesota fans when I say, obviously, I wanted to win these last two games. No doubt about that. I don't think there's a Vikings fan that didn't want us to win these last two games. But I think with that said, I think what hurts the most and what fucking sucks the most about these last two games, pardon my French, is not that we lost the game, it's how we lost the game. We lost the game because our quarterback, who looked like could be our quarterback of the future, saw ghosts again.
No showed.
And it's like, you can't. And again, I'm sorry. It's not fair to Sam Darnold, but if you're like, the NFL is a business, and if you're Kevin O'Connell, if you're Kwesi Adifo-Mensah, you are trying to put yourself in a position every single year to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. But
And
I mean,
to look at this and say, look, as great as you did, these last two losses tell us more about what we're getting of what we would get from you than the first 14 wins. So,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know, Jack, because we always have this quarterback controversy every single year. And 2022 was that magic year with Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins was supposed to be the guy. And no.
I want it known right now with you saying that I was never high on the Kirk train. I was always one of his biggest, like, I always gave him his flowers when he did well, but I was always his biggest critic. Like, we should never.
It's extremely difficult to be a quarterback in Minnesota. That is for 100% certain.
We should have signed Case Keenum to a team-friendly 4 to 5 year deal.
Yeah,
just fine.
All you need is like an average quarterback that can throw the football when he's under pressure. Or
you know what I have to say? Fuck Mike Zimmer and fuck Greg Spielman, because you know what? It was
Rick Spielman.
Or whatever the fuck their names are. They were blaming the Wilfs for bringing Kirk in. You know what really happened? Oh, not Kirk. Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman were the ones getting in their ears about bringing him to Minnesota. Mm-hmm. They wanted him in Minnesota more than the Wilfs wanted him.
Yeah, I mean, well, shout out to the Wilfs, though. Thanks for giving the Viking fans discount tickets to be able to see them on the roads. I thought that was pretty cool. But
it was awesome. Did you hear about all of the Detroit fans that were crying about that, complaining to the NFL like we did anything wrong?
It's because they're absolutely clueless, but that's a different story. Because, I mean, the Viking fans, like, some of them returned the favor because they bought them for like $200. Yeah. But then they resold them for like $1,000. So everybody's a winner.
No, 1,000,000%.
But yeah, it's a tough way to go out. But hey, this is a team that had no expectations. You said that they weren't going to win many games. I said they were going to win 8 or 9. And, they were playing with house money. And it's just unfortunate that it always has to end like this every single year.
I mean,
no Super Bowl. I just want them in the Super Bowl. I don't care if they win it. I just want them in the Super Bowl in my lifetime before I die, Jack. That's what I want. And
me too.
as I get older, I'm becoming to realize that may never happen.
Don't say that. I'm looking at it right now. I actually said that preseason, I believe that Sam Darnold was going to be a halfway decent quarterback. I had us win. I was going 9-8, or 9-8, and just missing that final wild card spot. So I had us, believe it or not, I actually had us doing better than a lot of people did. A lot of people had us going 4-13, 12.
Last in the division. Chicago Bears #1 with Caleb Williams.
You want to talk about a franchise like us that's more snake bitten? We're due, my friend. If I had to, I would put. So my wife's not listening to the pod right now or to this podcast. I would bet our mortgage. I would bet our mortgage that we will win a Super Bowl before the Chicago Bears win the next Super Bowl. Say what you want about the Vikings, and yes, I get it. Your dad, my dad, you, everybody's lived through the pain. We've lived through those tough games.
Yeah, they got to see them in the Super Bowl.
But mark my word,
4 times.
Will win the Super Bowl in the next 5, 10, 12 years. We will win a Super Bowl.
All right, Super Bowl parties at your place when that happens.
1,000,000%, and the Bears will still be dog shit. There is something about that organization. I think, and again, it's not the silver lining, but I think it's like, look, if you're a Vikings fan, just be thankful you're not a fucking Bears fan.
It's still not fun.
I would so much rather.
I'll do the Tony Romo voice. Oh, I don't think so, Jack.
I would so much rather be a Vikings fan saying, you know what, we're going to go 9-8, we're going to just miss the playoffs, and have us win 14 games, than being a Bear fan saying we're going to fucking win the Super Bowl and you win 5 games.
No, well, at least you get to work on the draft and get a top 5 pick, which would be really nice.
They could have taken Jaden Daniels, and guess what? They didn't.
I know.
Jaden Daniels, mark my word, is going to have a better career than Caleb Williams.
They just liked Caleb's nails better than Jaden's.
Amen. Before we get on to divisional round stuff, you said you had a great idea for the podcast. You wanted us to check back in with our preseason bowl predictions. You want me to go first, or
yeah, you dropped the line, Jack.
So I think first and foremost, shout out to him. Salute him. Thank you for the good season, Darnold. My first one, I said he was going to throw for 4,000 yards. You laughed at me, and rightfully so, because it's bold. It's bold. But it did hit. He threw for 4,319 yards to be exact. He actually hit 4,000 yards before in that game before we lost to the Lions. So shout out to him for that. One that fell a little bit short, I said Dallas Turner was going to lead the league in sacks for rookies and win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He was 9th place with 3 sacks as a rookie.
He turned it up later in the season. So in the early part, he was kind of like a no-show, but as the season progressed, I feel like he got to understand his role, and I thought he played better.
No doubt, and I was actually just going to touch on that. I was going to say, I think, it didn't hit. Obviously, it was bold. It didn't hit. Some of these things, just happen like that. But I think how he finished with stats and everything like that is less indicative of the year he had and more indicative of how talented this roster ended up being. I think Brian Flores would have told you he probably was going to be playing Dallas Turner a lot more in those first 5 games than he did. And the reason he did it because he's like, holy shit, Blake Cashman, Ivan Pace, Ginkle. These 4 or 5 guys, hell yeah. Shout out.
Ivan was awesome.
I think
Dad's a big fan of Ivan.
I thought he was blown away just in those first 2-3 games by how talented those guys were. Mm-hmm. And it's like, when you have proven guys that are talented, you're going to play those guys a little bit more than the rookie that's, hasn't been there yet. So again, I'm super excited to see what he can do next year. Again, I don't think that's indicative of he had a bad year. I think
he had Greenard and Van Ginkel, who were monsters.
I think he was a sponge this year. I think he learned so much knowledge. He's going to keep that, and he's only going to get better. I think he's going to be Danielle Hunter 2.0. So in the next couple of years. So, but I got a couple more. But why don't we kind of go back and forth? What about you? How'd yours end up?
Excuse me. On the defensive side of the ball, Cam Bynum, he definitely was the. I mean, I should have said that he was the best choreographer on the team. You know,
Amen.
I had said that he was going to have like a breakout season as a safety / corner, whatever. I predicted he'd have 7 interceptions, but he ended up with 3. But I still think he had a pretty good season. But yeah, I kind of jumped the gun with the 7 picks. But hey, the choreography whenever they cause a turnover, all those dances that they did, the Parent Trap, the High School Musical, and all that. So I think that makes up for that prediction. Yeah. So, but either way, I hope they. I don't know if he's still under contract, but you definitely should lock him up for a few more seasons, or at least give him a pay raise.
He's actually not under contract, and I don't know if I chimed in when I asked you your questions. If I'm completely honest, if I'm the Vikings, one of your top 3 transactions you need to make is signing Cam Bynum to a minimum 2-year extension, maybe 4-year extension.
Yeah, and also he's probably going to replace Harry the Hitman's role. So
Harry will probably come back. Harry's actually under contract for 1 more year. I'm guessing he'll play out his contract
1 more season. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. And then with your Sam Darnold take, I said he'd get 3,500. So I mean, okay. But what else did you have on the predictions?
So I'm actually excited about 2 of them. I think one of them mainly one of them I talked about. The other one I wrote down, but I don't know that I brought up. But the one I didn't bring up was I thought the Vikings were going to the Vikings were going to double their interceptions from last year, and boy did they fucking do that.
He showed out.
We came up with this is why is that?
They had 26.
Oh, I'm in the postseason. They had Jesus Christ, Jack. I want to verify this because I don't want to say.
They had a lot of turnovers.
6 interceptions. I'm pretty sure we had. Regular season. Sorry, I thought I had that up. We had fucking.
Dan Ginkel had a couple. Some return for touchdowns.
We were the only team in the league this year that had at least 1 takeaway every single game.
Byron was the leader with 6.
The one that I talked about that I am very excited about, and we talked about this before the podcast too. I said the Vikings defense was going to be top 10 in takeaway giveaway differential, and boy did we fucking do that. We were tied for 3rd. Only Buffalo and Pittsburgh had a better differential. Buffalo was an amazing plus 24. Pittsburgh was plus 16. But the Packers, the Chargers, and us were all plus 12. In that, we led the league in 24 interceptions and only had 9 fumble recoveries. And again, I'm going to keep it short and sweet, but this speaks volumes to what we were able to do win-wise. I don't know exactly what the stat is, but I think under Kevin O'Connell, we have only lost 1 or 2 games under Kevin O'Connell where we win the turnover battle or tie the turnover battle. So I think you look at this Minnesota team with Kevin O'Connell, and winning or tying that turnover battle is integral. And last year we just didn't do that. Last year we were minus 12. We had 22 takeaways on the defensive side, but we gave away the ball fucking 34 times. And you know what that amounted to? I think 9 wins.
7-10 record. I think they went 7-10 last year.
So,
but yeah, it was a good turnaround for the defense.
I want to take a quick second here. I know I've talked about it a couple times. To all those stupid fucking Chicago fans, to all those stupid fucking Packer fans, stupid fucking Detroit Lions fans that want to say, oh, the Vikings won 14 games this year because they played such an easy schedule. You know what I have to say to that? My brother in Christ, we played the same exact fucking schedule except 3 games. 3 games. That is it.
I'll just piggyback. Herm Edwards, you play to win the game. So it doesn't matter.
I mean, it's like, I don't understand it. Now, if you want to compare the Vikings schedule to the Eagles schedule, fine. We play completely different schedules. If you're trying to say the Vikings have such an easier schedule than the Packers, or oh my gosh, the Bears have such an easier schedule than the Lions. Guess what, assholes? We all play the same fucking schedule. Sure.
Well, it's always interesting, like, before the season, they're like, wow, the schedule looks very daunting. And then at the end of the season, these teams play and they end up being crappy. People will be like, whoa, soft schedule. Well, it plays out how it plays out. But back on the predictions. So I got the Aaron Jones one right. I mean, I said he'd rush for over 1,000 yards, and he got 1138. I don't see him returning next season because I think it's time for them to get a good running back, and they do need to really evaluate during the combine and find the right rookie running back. Having a really good running back is so key to having a good football team.
I disagree a little bit. I think having a serviceable running back. You don't need the best running back in the rookie class. You don't need the best running back.
I like Jetty.
No, I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying I think you need a guy that's decent at best. And I can't help but feel bad for Aaron Jones in this situation because after playing for
he was also hurt a little bit too, and
which is what I was gonna bring up. I think for a guy that played for such a terrible organization, as the Green Bay Packers, and then getting a chance to come play for the Vikings, I've heard so many things about him being like, "This is a world-class organization. I want to retire as a Viking. I want to be here long term." I can't help but feel bad for him because I know he wants to be here, but at the same time, if you're Kwesi or KOC, I think you look at him and say, "Let's see, you can't help but look at him and tell him like, look, you can come back if you really."
Put glue on your hands so you hold on to the damn football?
Well, no, I think you look at it and say, you can come back if you really, really, really want to, but we're going to offer you half of what you're supposed to.
Yeah, and he's not going to take that.
You can't. I don't see those guys I don't see Kwesi and KOC saying, no, fuck you, Aaron Jones, get out of here. But I think having him in your running back room can be big for Ashton Genty or a younger
Woody Marks from USC. He's a solid running back.
I don't think after what you saw from him this year, you can't count on Aaron Jones being your starting running back.
You know who I can see that the Vikings are probably already in love with him? The Arizona State running back, Cam Skattebo.
I thought you were going to say I thought you were going to say that, but if I'm being honest with you, I think that guy goes top 15.
I see him going second or third round.
I think I think there would be a team or two that would take him in the top 15. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm saying I think there's a team or two that would think about it.
I mean, the combine is next month or end of February, early March, so we'll see. But
it's just like the thing. Hey, it's just like the Sam Darnold thing. What have you done for us lately, Skattebo? The only reason people were talking about Arizona State in that game is because of that guy,
Cam Skattebo. Yeah, transfer from Sacramento State. Anyways, don't forget that.
That was a good take by Aaron Jones. What else did you have?
As far as, like I said, the Vikings would go 8-9, and I had mentioned I was rewatching our podcast of the predictions, and I was like, or they could surprise us, and they could, all hell breaks loose, and they make the playoffs. And you know what? All hell did break loose, and they made the playoffs.
We fucking did.
Raging fires in LA, Trump's reelected, and the Vikes make the playoffs. Gotta love it. What a country.
No, but I think it's better to miss low. Like, I would rather what happened to both of us. I would rather say, hey, the Vikings are going to finish 8-9, 9-8, and have them finish 14-2, rather than being like, holy hell, it's going to be a great season. It's going to be a 13-4 year, and we win 5 games.
Yeah.
So missing out on the low end is a good way to miss out on it.
I don't know. Our preseason predictions this coming August is going to be fun.
Yeah.
So, but we still got a long way to go before that. No, we have Twins baseball to suffer through, and hopefully new ownership.
They're saying there's a couple potential there's a chance we could have a new buyer by the time the season starts. But before we do move on, I had 2 more. I didn't talk too much about them, but I made them, and neither of them hit. I said JJ excuse me, I said JJ was going to be the first 2,000-yard wide receiver. That didn't happen. He ended with 1,533 yards. Still a really good season for him. But dude, this last one, I barely missed out on it. I said that Aaron Jones was going to have a career year in scrimmage yards, and his career year would have been 1,559 yards. He ran for 1,138 yards and had 408 receiving yards for a grand total of 1,540 fucking.
It's a call. I mean, I'll count that. That's a right prediction. That's
wasn't a career, but hey, I'm glad we were able to see him turn it around because what was it up until this year he had kind of had like 2 or 3 years that by his standards were kind of man.
Yeah, because he was playing hurt, and I know he was playing a little bit injured this year, but man, did he have a stretch of fumbleitis.
Yeah.
I think the Arizona game, he fumbled the ball a couple times. I think the game before that. Yeah, so that was a concern, and that's why, I mean, Aaron Jones is a still solid back, but I think he's turning 31, and that's old for running back standard. The Vikes need a
happy belated birthday to Aaron Jones. He just or no.
Yeah, I think his birthday was in December.
Yeah, no, you are right now. Right?
On like New Year's Eve, I think.
He just turned 30 a month ago on December 2nd.
Yeah, and once you hit 30 as a running back, I mean, unless your name is Derrick Henry or Emmitt Smith or
something else.
But I don't know. There's a lot of things to consider in this offseason. It's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of wheeling and dealing. And honestly, my hot take is, Jordan Addison ceiling. I mean, that might be where it is. And I'd say you trade him for some draft picks.
Yeah, and I didn't really think about that. You kind of put me on the spot there, but I like it because you're making me think on my feet. My hot take right now, I think by the end of next season, professionalism-wise and health-wise, JJ will be our starting quarterback. I don't know who is going to start the season for us. I don't know who he's going to be competing with yet. I have a couple solid ideas, but I'm going to hold back on those opinions. But I think by the time the season ends next year, JJ is our franchise quarterback, and he's already started starting games for us.
Yeah, you hope. I mean, that was the expectation this season.
Part of the thing that gives me reason to believe that's true is because, again, I was talking to my brother about this earlier today or yesterday, and you never want to tear your meniscus. You never want to have major surgeries like that. But if you do, you want to have them younger. Kid's about to turn 22 years old. So if there's any point in his life that he can bounce back and come back quicker than he should, not that he should come back quicker than he should, but if there's any time to bounce back from a serious injury like that, it's when you're young.
Well, I thought they were talking like a month ago that J.J. McCarthy was like healthy enough to start like working out with the team and stuff like that. So
yeah, no, by the end of the by the end of the team. So I think if you're on the IR, that doesn't mean you can't be around the team. You can't be doing things. And I think I remember hearing that. I think by the end of week 17, he was practicing, like he was throwing balls, like he was doing drills. He wasn't doing any contacting. But the entire time, KOC has been talking about this guy being ahead of schedule, being a joy to work with.
Let's hope he is the man of the future. Otherwise, they should have taken Bo Nix. That's who I was riding on. But we can't make those judgments yet. We gotta see how next season plays out and go from there. But they definitely need to add more draft picks for this upcoming draft. And I know with the signing with Kirk Cousins, I think they do get a complimentary comp pick for the third round. So, and that's where they take Cam Scatterbull.
No, and you were right. Right now we have 3 picks in this upcoming draft. We got a first rounder, 2 rounders.
They need to double that. They need to double that.
Some of the things I have heard is we could be getting 2 or 3 compensatory picks based off of how bad the tampering was. And there's another guy we have on our roster that we're supposed to be getting a compensatory pick for as well. So I'm really not all that worried. But I would disagree. I think like the draft is always, important. You got to draft guys, you got to scout guys.
Otherwise, you're going the free agent pool.
Exactly. I was going to say, I think you look at this free agent pool. I don't know who's free agents and who would want to come to Minnesota, but I think you showed the league, hey, this is a team that can fuck around and win some games.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see some guys wanting to come here, and I wouldn't be surprised. Again, we got 75 mil to play with next year, and with not franchise taking your boy, we're going to be able to get who we want and make things happen.
They need to go in the free agency pool, like acting as if they are going to make the Super Bowl next season. Like they need to go balls to the wall and sign whoever is available that can take us there.
I don't know if
it's Super Bowl or bust to this point.
No, I'm excited. I think
maybe NFC title game, but
I think again, it's people say what they want, but I think to your point, I think this upcoming season will be very similar to this season, where the one main glaring question is what's going to be, the quarterback solution. Because again, we already attributed to this. We're going to be bringing back a lot of quality players. It's who's going to be the quarterback. And again, it comes back to you don't need a Tom Brady. You need an average quarterback that can get the ball to the playmakers.
I think the writing's on the wall as of the last couple of weeks that Sam Darnold is not coming back, and that J.J. McCarthy will be your opening day starter for the Minnesota Vikings unless something drastically changes. Oh yeah,
I'm excited for him. I think
you see what he has, man, like right off the bat, no dilly dallying. You just put him in there and let it ride. You drafted him at the 11th pick for a reason. You chose him over Bo Nix for a reason. So,
Nix is going to be fine, but my God, Bo Nix is not. Good Lord, Bo Nix is not Jade Daniels. Bo Nix did
take him to the playoffs though.
Bo Nix didn't go 27-1 in his college football career.
I know he played at Auburn and Oregon. He was part of the transfer portal.
But no, I think
fine. You draft Max Brosmer with the 5th round pick, and you put him.
God, do not. But no, I think you re-sign a Daniel Jones. Maybe you go after Russell Wilson. Maybe you go after Justin Fields, and you tell them, look, we're signing you to compete for the one spot with JJ. We're ultimately going to ride with him once he's ready to go, but we're signing you. With your nothing's guaranteed. I'm not dropping names and saying bold take, hot take, whatever. I'm just saying you go get a guy that's serviceable, that's been there, done that. Daniel Jones has been in the league. He's had some good games. He's had some bad games. So has Sam Darnold. So has Russell Wilson. So has Justin Fields. You get somebody to kind of get his competitive juices going.
You know who I know?
You know
who I'm thinking about right now?
Tom Brady.
I didn't, I always thought that was going to be a possible thing, but not lately, of course. Remember when Brett Favre was kicked out the door and he got traded to the Jets?
It's not going to happen. Don't say it. It's not going to happen.
What if Aaron Rodgers has one last season to go? And the Vikings sign him to a 1-year, $20 million contract. Let it fly. And then you have JJ as the backup.
2 things I will say to that. 1, nobody in the Vikings organization will have any contact with Aaron Rodgers at any point this offseason. The second thing I will say, if that happens, I will personally get in my 2022 red Hyundai Tucson, drive my ass down to TCO Bank when they are practicing, run straight up to Kwesi Adefo-Mensah and kick him in the balls if he does that. That is what I will do. It's not going to happen.
Hey, I will give it a 10% chance that he at least gets a phone call.
Did you see that guy essentially made, that's the issue with the Jets. The Jets get one decent quarterback in the last 25 years. And you know what they did for him? They let him make his team. I want Devontae Adams. Here you go. I want Alan Lazard. Here you go. I want this guy. I want that guy.
Well, because it's ran by a 17-year-old kid. Like, the owner's kid is the one that's making the decisions. It's not just Aaron Rodgers. The New York Jets are, they're a
The
mess.
issue with the Jets, I don't know if you heard what I said. The issue with the Jets is the Jets did everything that Aaron
They
Rodgers told them to do.
put them on a platter, but at the same token, they're also
It hurts as a football fan, it hurts my eyes to look at this shit. He didn't even throw for 4,000 yards. He had Brees Hall.
He had no offensive line, though. The Jets were garbage on the line, too, also. And they all were getting hurt.
Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Alan Lazard, Tyler Conklin, Mike Williams. He had all the talent in the world.
Mike Williams couldn't catch for shit.
Coming into the season, he had one of the best defenses in the
fault.
And this team, with the great Aaron Rodgers, won 5
coming
games.
off a torn Achilles. But it's probably not going to happen. However, I will say 10% chance that
I will say 0.1%.
I don't know what we're gonna do. I know we drafted J.J. McCarthy, but I think we really need a veteran leader to help this football team. No better than Aaron Rodgers. You're talking Russell Wilson, man. Like, I don't know.
I know
you ready for moonballs with Russell?
I know you maybe don't want me advertising this on the Mini Weekend podcast, but I know you're secretly a cheesehead, which respectfully, fuck you for that. It's not going to happen.
That's fair.
And you can take that to the bank.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
It's not going to happen. And I would bet my life savings. Nobody in the Vikings organization, I already said it, but I'll say it again. Nobody in the Vikings organization, including players, will have any contact with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, you want Russell Wilson and his moonball for next season.
Hey, you know what Russell Wilson didn't do? Win 5 games with a great team.
It's fair.
Oh, my God.
That's fair.
Anyway.
That's fun. That's a fun segment.
Anyway, we got to wrap this up, but we still got a little bit to talk about Wild Card Weekend. Aside from that game that we kind of dissected already, what were your overall thoughts about the weekend, and what game kind of surprised you the most, I guess?
Well, not exactly surprised me, but I thought the Washington-Tampa game was fun.
Yeah.
Got to give credit to Baker Mayfield. I mean, that guy's a gamer. I mean,
he's definitely.
I mean, the way he tries to. I mean, he's a quarterback's quarterback for sure.
He's a quarter thrower. Yes.
But Jaden Daniels is magical, and that connection with him and Terry McLaurin, and I think there was another wide receiver that kind of showed out during that game too as well. But watch out for Washington, Detroit.
100%. I don't know if people really wanted to admit it or not, but I think part of it was coming into that wildcard game against the Bucs. I think Washington, I talked about it last week, Washington was playing better ball. I personally picked them to win 27-23, which was
nice. 3 points off, 1 point off.
And I took them in the spread, Washington +3 as well. But they were just playing, and again, I do like Baker. I would have been fine with us bringing Baker in a couple years ago over Kirk Cousins, beside the point.
Minnesota fans wouldn't have liked his arrogance. They would have shown him the door after the first year. That's how they operate.
I just think the Washington Commanders, I think people are sleeping on them. I don't think people realize this. They won 12 games. And again, I think they were playing better football going into that game against the Bucs.
I mean, Dan Quinn's got something going. But the Texans steamrolling the Chargers, I thought that was surprising because I thought Jim Harbaugh and the boys were going to make some noise, but apparently Justin Herbert sucks.
So did I. I don't really know what happened. That was a tough game, too, because that was one of the 3 games that I kind of double whammied myself. I picked the Chargers to win that game, and I actually took LA. I took them -3 points in that one as well. And it looked like they were going to do that. They weren't super high-powered, but they were by far the better team in the first quarter. The one thing, before we get into divisional games, the one thing I will say, though, the Houston Texans proved me wrong. And the second thing, if the Texans can play for 4 quarters like they did those 3 quarters against the Chargers, there's no reason to think they can't play with and or upset the Kansas City Chiefs.
Everybody in the world except for Chiefs fans want that to happen.
Well, and it's not necessarily about wanting what you want to happen. I think again, another one of those my hats off to you guys moments. I just like that Washington Tampa Bay game. I thought going into that game, the Chargers were just playing better football. I thought the Texans just kind of rolled into the playoffs by virtue of getting to play Tennessee twice, Indianapolis twice, Jaguars twice, and losing. Kind of like what people were saying of the Green Bay Packers, like kind of like beating the teams you should be beating, but then the good teams lose to those teams.
Yeah.
I just didn't have much faith going into that game with them. But yeah, I would agree with you. I think those two games, all 6 games were fun to watch.
Yeah, five of the 6.
Yeah, but those, yeah, no, I would have to agree. And then, before we move on, I apologize to you guys. Went 4-2 in our picks this last weekend, wildcard weekend. 3-3 against the spread, ATS, if you will, if you're a big sports betting. Obviously, we didn't get a chance to see the Kansas City Chiefs play and the Detroit Lions play. Heading into divisional round weekend, right now, who is your one clear-cut favorite to win the entire thing, and who's your one clear-cut dark horse to win the whole thing?
Ravens would probably be my dark horse. Okay. I mean, Lamar Jackson's got to get over the hump at some point, but damn, is that road tough.
Yeah,
I mean, they're going to be playing in Buffalo against Josh Allen, but Baltimore does have a really, really good football team, and they almost beat the Chiefs the first game of the season. If you don't remember that Isaiah Likely catch where he missed it just by staying in bounds by that much. Hopefully that wasn't a bad omen, but I can see them upsetting the Bills. And I'm looking at the spread right now. Baltimore is -1. So
it doesn't surprise me that spread-wise that's the closest one of the 4 games.
But Detroit, I mean, yes, they are. But Dan Campbell just plays so ballsy. Just so ballsy. Like going for 4th down when you're at like the 35, 40, whatever. Going for it on 4th and 2 late in the game and not settling for a field goal, but just trying to, close the game. It's just really ballsy football, and it might cost them. And it could cost them as early as in this divisional round against Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commies. So
I think not only that the Commanders' offense, I think that Washington defense is very, very slept on too.
Yeah, it's underrated for sure.
They held the Buccaneers, who have one of the best active wide receivers in the game in Mike Evans. And
Jalen McMillan, their rookie, was coming up too as well. But yeah, so we'll see. But I think it's the Chiefs' kingdom. I think it's inevitable that they're going to win their 3rd straight Super Bowl. First time in NFL history.
Don't you fucking say that.
I didn't mean to, but I just spoke that into existence.
But
you think I want the Kansas City Chiefs to win a 3rd straight title? Do you think I actually wanted them to win last year? Do you think I wanted them to win the year before? Do you think I ever wanted them to win a damn Super Bowl in our era? No, not at all. But
what's his tits should retire. I think after this year, Travis Kelce should just retire and go marry Taylor Swift.
That's right off into the sunset, and yeah, nobody cares.
But just like, I don't know if you watched last week yet, but just like last weekend, we're going to quickly do we'll put everything up here. Kicking it off, Kansas City hosting the Houston Texans, 3 o'clock on Saturday the 18th. It'll be on ESPN Plus, ABC. I'll start. The line right now is -8, and I'm just going to be honest with you. I have a sneaking suspicion all 4 of these games are going to be decided by a very small amount of points. For starters, I think 1,000,000% I am taking Houston +8 in this game. Texas, Houston, whatever, +8 in this game. I just don't see the Kansas City Chiefs they didn't blow out anybody this year, and it's sure as shit not going to happen in the playoffs. And I mean, I said it earlier. We'll try to keep these short and sweet because we've been rambling on for a long time, but good content, obviously. Kind of similar to last week, like that Rams game. My gut tells me that the Chiefs are going to win the game, but my heart tells me that I would not be surprised to see the Texans upset them. I think the Chiefs will prevail because they're the Chiefs. I think their luck will get them one more win, but I got the Chiefs beating the Texans 30-24, 6-point game, and give me the Houston Texans +8 in the spread. What do you got?
I got Chiefs 34-13 over the Texans. It's supposed to be extremely cold, but that won't be until like Sunday, Monday. But you have a warm weather team against a cold weather team. I mean, it's going to be similar to what the Chiefs did to the Dolphins last year. I'll say 34-13 Chiefs over the Texans.
I guess I just think, again, and you maybe don't see it,
I hope I'm wrong.
No doubt. I just think if the Texans can put together 4 quarters like they did put 3 quarters together against a team that a lot of people didn't even have them winning that game. If they can do that, I don't think anybody would be shocked to see them upset them because I think a lot of people thought should the Chargers win, they could play with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I thought so too, and it's a bad. I'd look at it just a bad matchup for the Texans, but we'll see. Maybe we get the Chiefs of the old, of the mid '90s, where like choked in every postseason.
I like how
and Harrison Butker misses all his field goals just for karma.
And then rounding out Saturday, the second number 1 seed, Detroit Lions will be taking on the Washington Commanders.
Gosh, 9.5.
Yep, at 7 on Fox. 9.5. I'll let you start this game. Who do you got? Game and what spread do you like?
Detroit, all those fans are so pumped up. Like, this is the year. I don't know, man. Jaden Daniels has something up his sleeve. And if Detroit's defense is absolutely depleted. I mean, what do they have? Like 10 to 12 starters that are out for the season. They got a bunch of backups in. It's a next man up world. I think Jaden's going to have some fun. I really, really want to say Washington will win that game. I do have a feeling Detroit does have the upper hand just because they have more firepower on offense. But we're going to be looking at maybe like a 42-35 type of game, 42-35, 42-38. We could see Washington go off to like a 24-0 like start to the game, and then Detroit decides to, turn it up.
Yeah,
42-38 Lions, but I wouldn't bet on this game because that's how I'm feeling. Because I would not be surprised if the Commies do come into Ford Field and dictate the Detroit Lions. If you saw what I did there.
Yeah, no.
Commies dictate.
If I'm being completely honest with you, I'm right now really hoping for a Rams versus, as much as I'm upset that they beat us, I'm really hoping for a Rams and Commanders NFC Championship game. I think I have a lot of the same feelings as you for this game. I'm definitely being the betting man I am. Just like that Chiefs-Texans game, I am definitely taking Washington plus 9.
But Commies will beat the spread. I don't think it's going to be 9.5. I'd be surprised.
No, I think it's going to be a close game. Very much just like that Chiefs-Texans game. My heart tells me the Commanders are going to find a way to do it. I don't think the Commanders have it in them to win the Super Bowl yet, but I think they're a good team, and I think Jaden Daniels, like I said last week, has been playing really good football.
That's my quarterback.
I really want to take the Commanders in this game, but as a betting man in good faith, I can't. And this would very much be a game that if I lose the spread and my pick in it, I would not be upset. I think the Lions will win 31-26, and like I said, I got Washington at 9.5 points.
Beating the spread.
Yeah. And then Sunday the 9th at 2 p.m. NBC and Peacock. We got the Rams going to the Philadelphia Eagles, and Philly is 6.5-point favorites.
Fly, Eagles, fly. It really just depends on which Jalen Hurts we see. Are we going to see turnover Jalen Hurts, or are we going to see, Super Bowl contender Jalen Hurts? That's what it comes down to.
By the way, before you go on, with your Fly Eagles fly thing, I just need to get something off my chest. If you to a Viking fan that's a closeted Packer and Eagle fan,
I'm more of a Vikings fan. Let's just put it out there. I am more
I
of a
don't think I
Vikings
can
fan.
ever talk to you ever
I
again.
have grandparent ties. It's like I told anyway. It's complicated. All right, it's complicated.
That's like saying you live in the U.S., but guess what? Those Nazis, man, they were nice.
Oh, okay. God, but
I'm
no,
with you.
I'm a Vikings fan. It's just there are
No,
times where those losses really just get to you, and you got to find a new team.
I didn't even think. No, you have one team that's fucking it. Don't give me that
Yeah, yeah,
shit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All
I
right,
didn't even
whatever.
think
Enough
about
about
that.
me.
But that's a great point of what Jalen Hurts are you going to get? Because
Yeah.
as good as Saquon has been, Saquon's always been this year the one constant for them. Jalen Hurts, surprisingly, has kind of been meh.
And Dan Quinn is a defensive mastermind, so
Yeah.
right?
Wait,
Was he a defensive coordinator with Atlanta or something? But I don't know. Either way, it's going to be a good game. But I like Matthew Stafford though, and if he can get Puka and Cooper going, yeah. But I
yeah.
feel like the Philadelphia fans are going to be too rowdy, so I think the Eagles win like 21-7.
Okay. 21-7.
Dilly dilly, fuck Philly.
Amen. Fuck Philly. This is the first one that I am going to be bold with this Saturday or this Sunday. I think the Rams are playing with a huge, huge chip on their shoulder. I think they took
You got the
down
fires, man. The fires.
pun intended. I think they're very confident because I think they got done beating a team that I think very much like some of these other games, like the Chargers game. They beat a team that I think a lot of people thought were going to kill them, and they killed us. I think they're feeling themselves. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be solid. I think I trust Matthew Stafford just a little more. Once again, I'm taking the Rams against the spread 6.5 plus 6.5 points. But I think the Rams, with about 5 minutes to go, are going to be losing 24-27. They march down the field, get a touchdown, go up 31. The Eagles need a touchdown with close to 2 minutes left, and that young defense does their thing again, and they get a stop and win.
You heard it. You heard it.
And this
Jared Verse with another fumble recovery for a touchdown.
And this last game, I'll go first. This was the one that I was the most confident about. I know it's arguably the most even game, but Baltimore at Buffalo, 5:30 p.m. Believe it or not, I've heard a lot of people saying the winner of this game
Gonna
is
win the
kind of
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl and arguably win the Super Bowl too. I'm gonna ride the hot hand, man. I gotta give it to Josh Allen. He has been throwing the ball all over the place. He's been running the ball. He's been efficient. That defense has his back. They were plus 24, like I said, in the regular season, led the league in turnover differential. I got nothing but love and respect for Lamar Jackson. I got nothing but respect for Derrick Henry. But even though they killed the Steelers 31-10, there were moments in that game that like the Steelers did a shitty job of tackling those two guys.
28-14.
Oh yeah, 28-14.
But
There
it was a bland game.
There were times in that game that you thought to yourself, "Shit, if the Steelers were able to take down Lamar,
If they would have been able to put up some damn points in the fourth quarter, it would have been a totally different game. But they just couldn't.
I think the Steelers, the one shining thing about the Steelers in that game is they showed that people that Baltimore is a beatable team. So once again, I'm taking Buffalo. Baltimore's actually favored in this game. So I'm taking Buffalo +1, and I like the Bills to win this one 34-31. Thoughts?
Yep.
What do you
I like the Ravens. I think it's going to be like 27-20. Lamar Jackson. Hopefully we see former Gopher Rashad Bateman show out.
that'd be fun.
But Derrick Henry's a load, man. But on Buffalo side, they have James Cook too as well. But I think the Ravens just have a better defense.
After watching that, and to your point, Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos, they looked solid last weekend. But the one thing the Buffalo Bills showed me in that game, they are a great tackling team. Like there were not a lot of spots in that game where you felt like shit. Like they just missed 5 tackles.
Yeah.
That that's not an uncommon thing to happen in the NFL, to miss a couple tackles, and the Buffalo Bills just didn't miss a ton of tackles.
And Denver's still like a younger team too as well, but yeah, I think it's Lamar's time finally to make some noise.
I like it, and I'll end it too. So once again, I got the Chiefs over the Texans, Lions over the Commies, Rams over Eagles, Bills over the Ravens, and then our good friend Sam, you said you got the Chiefs, Lions, Eagles, Ravens. I don't think I said at the beginning. With these 8 remaining teams, I would probably say Buffalo is the favorite to win, just because Buffalo's been playing more consistent than Kansas City has been.
And they beat Kansas City.
And they beat Kansas City. And I think my dark horse, I hate that I'm going to say it, I think look out for the Rams. I kind of wanted to say look out for the Commanders, but I think they're kind of like your Denver Broncos. They're a little young. They're very talented, but I think they're a couple years away from actually making a championship game appearance. But right now, last 8 games, I got to say Buffalo is probably the top team to beat, or like the team to beat. And I think the Rams are a team that I don't think anybody's expecting them to do anything. And
they're a threat. I mean, they have been a threat even with their receiving core. I mean, you get Puka and Cooper running around. It can be problems.
And they're probably going to have Higbee back for this game too.
Yeah, I saw that he was okay.
So,
and then they have Kyron Williams, who's actually been a pleasant surprise at running back. So,
no, he's been solid. He's been serviceable. He's been really good. So yeah, that's who we got going to the conference championship. So that sets up on my side. That sets up the Chiefs to take on the Bills for the AFC Championship, and the Rams to take on the Lions for the NFC Championship. For you got Chiefs, Ravens, and Lions and Eagles, which the Lions and Eagles are playing to go to the Super Bowl. I might hurt somebody. But I just hope one of the two lower seeds in the NFC can just win a game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to come from Washington possibly, but we'll see.
But no, I like it. Any last words before we get off?
Let's hope the Twins decide to sign somebody instead of just sitting on their hands like they do every single offseason. But what do you do? And hopefully the Gopher basketball team can win at least one game.
Cool.
So good. I mean, it's not looking.
I love basketball. It's just not going to happen.
Hot take. It goes back to my prediction. Sorry, this is going long. Julius Randle. I said if the Timberwolves were not in the top 2 of the Western Conference, that they would trade him. Guess what's being lined up? We will definitely talk about that probably in a few weeks about Timberwolves basketball. But Julius Randle, see ya. We're getting some draft picks.
Yeah, it's a precarious situation to be in with the Timberwolves because I think he hasn't been playing great. So I think my hesitation of trading him is if you're going to trade him, you're probably not going to get what you want for him. But at the same time, you don't want to hold on to him if he has no interest in re-signing. Yeah, so I think it's one of those interesting cases where I think you got to sit down with him and ask him.
He ain't re-signing. Not after what Anthony Edwards said about him. Well, you play basketball like you're wearing jeans.
Well, what guys say, at least
it's kind of true.
At least Anthony Edwards didn't fuck Julius Randle's girlfriend like Jimmy Butler did to Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, it happens. And well, that's Delonte West did that. Anyway,
But no, I just mean like I know guys say that, haha, it's funny, but sometimes you gotta say that to light a fire under these guys' ass. I think this team is fun to watch. I think if I'm the Timberwolves, if you're Connolly, I think you gotta sit down with Julius Randle and say, what are your thoughts on being here long term? Because if he doesn't want to resign, and if you get that, I think you have to trade him. Like, I don't think you can just let him walk for nothing and get nothing out of him. But I also think that if you're going to trade him before the deadline, unless something magical happens, you're not going to get his trade value.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get there the next time you have me on in probably a few weeks, and we can dissect that disaster.
But yeah, it was obviously, had to come on with, despite the loss, rep the Vikings one more time. But yeah, it was a fun year. It was such a Minnesota way to go out. You win 14 games and you lose to a team that was very beatable.
I mean,
Quarterback was
we're now numb. Like that's what people are starting to say now. Like we're just numb and like we just expect it at this point. But every single time, it's still a little piece of us die every single season.
It's tough, but life goes on, and
life goes on. There's more to life than sport, but at least it gives us something to talk about.
But yeah, it's been fun. Always a pleasure to have you on. Appreciate your takes. It's been fun to disagree and agree with you. So with that,
we got to do a live stream soon.
I still got to figure that stuff out too.
Gotta reach out to Chris Castellani, see if we can get him on to talk about his Detroit Lions. And he's probably, we want his team to lose, but he'd probably be pretty entertaining to get on the podcast to talk NFC North sports.
Offline too, because there's some pretty cool stuff that I want to do this year for you guys. We got some fun stuff lined up, some good ideas to potentially be doing. And hopefully bringing this mini weekend thing to the next level by the end of 2025. Sam, it's been fun.
Yes, sir.
Until next time,
See you.